Please note this is a random comic vlog that is going to be discussing a topic that will definitely be polarizing. Whitewashing. Wait until the end of the video to agree, disagree, and all that jazz. And this is more of a listen than a watch, though the pictures will be up on screen. Marauders is a breakout hit of the dawn of X, no doubt about it. Twitter, mainstream, and everything in between has come out with an explosive case of love for Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, the story, the art, and all the characters and everything in it, except one thing that has not really been talked about at all in the mainstream and has very little traction even on blogs, but it has become an extremely large elephant in the room. Federico Blee's coloring job. Honestly, the best way to explain this is to pop up the panels that people really have had their sticking points on. Storm, Bishop, and in the second issue I will be talking about Gateway. I have not read the third issue yet, though it did drop. I believe it dropped today, or will come out next week or something like that. Anyways, I'll get to Gateway and all that jazz because that is a whole cluster later on. First, let's look at Storm and Bishop. They are the most glaring because they are the mainstays of the comic. Now, if you don't know why this is at the very least insensitive, then I should really go into, and I really should go into the giant history of whitewashing, racial erasure, and all that in modern entertainment, as that is generally what people feel like this is. But the short answer is that skin tone is important. Yes, I know I can be called a hypocrite for that because I've brought up and backed that skin tone, race, and all that never really matters as long as the story's good, and the world has decreed that Marauders has a great story, and it is the best of Dawn of X. But instead of going into the in-depths on the socio-political aspects here, trust me, I have some special comics that will be coming up when I get to them that will let me talk about that. Let's actually talk about this on a as it strictly relates to the characters, and a very good example. Captain America being white is not by itself a set rule. It's why I gave Sam Wilson a chance, because it is a mantle. It is someone inside of the suit. Steve Rogers, however, suppose suddenly that they just started coloring Steve Rogers from Earth 616 to be light-skinned or mixed. I know some people wouldn't have a problem with that due to the upping the representation by any means necessary, basically. But that's where this comes in. A character, any character, is supposed to be a unique individual. So whenever you miscolor or misidentify them, you hurt the writing of the characterization as a whole. Suddenly, Steve Rogers coming out as, well, you know, I'm 1/16th Native American, check my red skin tone, you'd all of a sudden start feeling, yo, that's messed up. But more than that, to me, it's bad art. Does that mean that it's whitewashing, though? Well, typically whitewashing is a deliberate attempt to diminish non-whites' roles in entertainment, history, and basically everything. I don't feel, or at least I hope not, that Blee is doing this consciously or maliciously. Yes, I'm aware many people will still call it whitewashing because it is in fact washing out the color of several black characters. And we all do agree that it's wrong, even if we disagree on terminology. That's all. Let's not get hung up on terminology when it's the more pointed point here. As I said, it doesn't come off like he's doing it in any overt malicious way. However, I think it's because Blee is actually not that good of a colorist when it comes down to these effects of any kind. Let's look at in Agents of Atlas and parts of Spider-Verse, there is solid color work on the flat paint bucket coloring. And it does sometimes have a quick bit of highlighting, and that does actually work. In Arrow, we see him... Arrow? I pronounce it Arrow. I know some people will call it Eero, whatever. Anyways, we see him trying to shift away from that and dealing with effects like Arrow's powers, yes, I'm already screwing up, or trying for more dynamic coloring between Arrow and Wave here. Though that's where this bugbear really starts to show up. He overblows the lighting on Wave, who's Filipino, by the way. It's the pattern of moving away from his comfort zone and not being good at anything outside of that comfort zone. Another thing about even outside of the static coloring, that's where the panel of Gateway, as well as other attempts at playing with lighting, comes to really bite the ass. Bite the ass of Blee. Before the Gateway thing, we have this awkward panel where Storm is the same blue as Iceman, while Kitty and Pyro aren't reflecting nearly as much. I think I know what he was trying to go for here, but because there's no rain texture at all on Storm, and the lighting wouldn't reflect the way it would that he's trying to do here. She wouldn't become Dr. Manhattan, basically. Now, this could really just be because one of my day jobs over the last 5 years has been as a modeling photographer, and having to play with tons of lighting for different skin tones, but this isn't how a black person shows up in this lighting. At all. Even a Google search will probably show you that. And then we have Gateway proper. That is a white dwarf, plain and simple. Hell, he even looks like Tom Thumb, another Marvel character, except of course in a loincloth now. And then the people behind him just have all sorts of messed up coloring. Although, I think I figured it out here. Just staring at that, I think I figured it out. Instead of coloring in the highlights on this book, Blee is trying to color in the skin tone, so that everyone's base level is page white. It's why the highlights, even on the white folks, seem to be way overblown. It's a neat concept, but really... it's a neat concept, it really is. It's a neat idea, but just like me trying to make Mousefest Destiny into a phrase, it's a poor execution that brings down a lot. While that is the main problem everyone's talking about, and the worrisome mess all around it, the biggest issue for me, or at least the most glaring, is that Marvel hasn't done anything about it. They fired Ardian Syaf, or however you say his name, like 2 days after X-Men Gold #1 came out, due to the religious and political graffiti within the book. Before the internet even really noticed anything, they fired this guy. It was that quick of a turnaround, despite how much scrutiny a hyped book like X-Men Gold, or even the first issue of Marauders would be as they were going along the line. Point of going... But now that the entire internet's actually going, yo, this is weak sauce, and be it intentional or not, this is very disrespectful. You'd think that Marvel, who's been trying to ride the sales gimmick of being a woke company despite having a huge Trump supporter still in a high office, and especially one that was the active reason X-Men were buried due to the film right pettiness, would jump at the chance to go, we apologize for this, and we'll correct this mistake as soon as possible, even if they aren't going to fix it, because they already have this first trade storyline of Marauders in the can already, which generally they usually do. That's what grates on me more than a mediocre colorist bringing down this book. However, this is a discussion because I am truly curious as to what you guys think. Is it outright whitewashing? Should mediocre coloring be a reason to put the brakes on a hot property to overcorrect it, or to just correct it, or, whatever I'm trying to say? Or is it all just finding a reason to find a flaw in what is otherwise a fantastic book? Leave your comments below, add us on Twitter, and just flame me on Facebook if need be. But no matter where you fall on this, I'm the Comic Archivist, and stay golden.